In 480 BC, from the distant east, a colossal empire stirred. Persia under King Xerxes was like a leviathan rising from the mist, dragging behind it endless columns of soldiers, spears, shields clad in leather, chariots that thundered, banners covering the sky. Bad news traveled across the Aegean, carried by small ships like drifting leaves. They are coming. In the harbors of Greece, people looked to the blue horizon and thought they could already hear the beat of war drums. Greece, land of freedom and pride, yet small and divided, faced a question of destiny: unite or vanish. In noisy halls thick with wine smoke, people argued about treaties, tributes, about what could and could not be done. Some city-states trembled and whispered of submission. But in Sparta, where boys were forged with frost and hunger, where death in battle was glory, no one spoke of kneeling. Thermopylae, the hot gates. A narrow pass pressed between mountain and sea, where the land was torn open to let the wind roar through. The path was so tight only a few dozen men could stand shoulder to shoulder. To the old folk of the region, it was a place of omens. When the sea raged, waves licked the rocks like a serpent's tongue. When calm, fog cloaked the pines and salt springs sang. Here, numbers meant nothing. Here, the few could defy the many. And here, Leonidas, king of Sparta, laid his scarred hand upon the map, marked a tiny dot between mountain and sea, and said simply, "We will stand here." At dawn, 300 Spartans chosen for this mission gathered. They were not picked at random. Each man had a son to carry on his name, for this was a journey with no return. Their wives and mothers did not weep. In Sparta, farewell was given with words carved from iron: "Return with your shield, or upon it." Spartans were not raised to love comfort. They were thrown into the cold of discipline and pain, to know truth from illusion, courage from fear. The agoge, Sparta's brutal training, did not teach them to be charming, it taught them to be unbreakable. Not to speak much, but to speak with weight. A scar was a diploma. A calloused hand was a badge of honor. Leonidas himself was no banquet king. His medals were scratches on his armor, his crown was the salt of sweat. When he looked at his 300, he did not see bronze and leather, he saw fire trapped in steel. "I do not need numbers," he told them calmly, like stone speaking. "I need men who know why they stand here." When a Persian envoy rode up and declared, "King Xerxes demands you lay down your weapons and kneel, you shall live," Leonidas stepped forward, sunlight in his eyes, lips curving into a smile made of granite. His reply was a phrase that still burns through history. "Molen Labe. Come and take them." The march to Thermopylae was no parade. It was a procession of fate. Behind them, the women of Sparta whispered blessings over shields. Ahead of them lay the narrow pass and the greatest army the world had ever seen. Villagers watched them pass in silence, torn between fear and awe. In the Persian camp, trumpets blared, drums thundered. Xerxes, seated on a golden throne, wanted not only to conquer Greece but to humiliate it. His army, drawn from every corner of the empire, was a sea of faces and tongues. When they moved, the ground itself seemed to quake. That night, Spartans laughed around their fires. A veteran rasped stories of marathon, a boy boasted of a spear throw, others sharpened blades with sparks like fireflies. Laughter echoed in the pass as if to taunt the shadows gathering on the horizon. The first day, the wave breaks. At sunrise, the Persian tide came roaring. Thousands poured into the pass, shields flashing, voices raised like thunder. But the wave shattered against a bronze wall. Spartan shields locked. Long spears thrust. Step by step, the invaders were cut down. The pass funneled Persia's numbers into a slaughterhouse. Blood ran black across the stones. By dusk, Xerxes sat stunned, his proud army repelled by a handful of men. The second day, arrows and the immortals. The next day, Xerxes sent his archers. The sky blackened with arrows until the sun itself was blotted out. A Spartan laughed. "Good. Then we shall fight in the shade." Shields rose like a bronze dome. The hail of arrows failed to break them. Furious, Xerxes unleashed his elite, the Immortals, 10,000 strong. But the name became mockery. Trapped in the chokehold of the pass, they fell like stalks before a scythe. By nightfall, campfires burned. A young soldier asked Leonidas, "My king, can we truly win?" Leonidas gazed into the flames. "No. But we will show them that to conquer Sparta, they must drown in their own blood." The shadow of treachery. And then came betrayal. Ephialtes, a Greek driven by greed, revealed to Xerxes a hidden mountain trail looping behind the pass. Under torchlight, Persian troops slithered along the ridge like a fiery serpent encircling prey. Leonidas received the news. Silence hung heavy before he gathered his allies. The path is lost. Those who wish to leave, go now. Your cities will need you. But I, and my Spartans, we remain. Some withdrew. Yet 700 Thespians and 400 Thebans chose to stay. Together with the 300, they bound their fates to immortality. Dawn of sacrifice. At sunrise, Persian drums shook the mountains. Enemies surged from both front and rear. The Spartans did not cower, they charged. They fought until spears splintered, shields shattered. They drew daggers, hurled stones, struck with bare fists. Their armor ran crimson, their bodies became statues carved in blood and bronze. Leonidas fell, pierced by spears. Yet his death ignited fury. The Spartans roared like lions, throwing themselves into the tide, dragging enemies down with them. One by one, they fell. But they fell unbroken. Thermopylae was silent at last. Corpses of Persians lay piled beside the fallen Spartans, a graveyard that screamed louder than any victory. Thermopylae had fallen. Yet Greece had gained what it needed most: time. Time to arm, time to unite, time to fight. Soon after, at Salamis, the Greek fleet shattered Persia's navy, turning the tide of history. Thermopylae became an eternal symbol of courage. Even the enemy bowed in respect. On the stone monument were carved words that echo across centuries. "Stranger, tell the Spartans that we lie here, obedient to their laws." But what if the 300 had not stood their ground? Persia might have swept into Greece unchecked. Athens burned, democracy strangled in infancy. What if Greece had chosen submission? Europe may have drowned in despotism, its philosophies and freedoms unborn. What if Leonidas had lived? Would he have led Greece as a single nation, or was his death the spark that lit the fire of resistance? Thermopylae was not simply a battle. It was a hymn of defiance, a reminder that sometimes, a handful of men can defy an empire. More than 2,000 years have passed, yet Thermopylae still whispers to us, strength is not only in numbers, but in will unbroken. So I ask you, what do you think? If there had been no sacrifice at Thermopylae, would our world today still carry the torch of Greek philosophy, democracy, and freedom? And finally, which battle would you like me to tell next?